Hey everyone, it's Willie Cuz, and welcome back to Valiant Hearts, The Great War. Hope you guys enjoyed Chapter 1 and 2, and I'm going to lead you off right here with Chapter 3. Thanks, guys.
My darling, war has taken away a very dear friend. He was like a brother to me, and his death affects me much more than I could imagine. In happier news, Carl is safe from the trenches, and his condition improves steadily. I'll go and see him on my next leave. And what about you? How are you? Are things in Saint Miel any better?
Carl discovered things were not, in fact, any better. According to Marie's last letter, his son had fallen gravely ill. Carl had come to a decision. This war would never end. He had to escape.
Button. Ein Schnuppermaß Kolga ab. Den Knoten auf der Klaus. Ja. Quellgatter als dabei.
Life in prisoner of war camps. Even in captivity, class differences still counted. Some camps were reserved for officers and others for foot soldiers. Prisoners were generally underfed, even more so if the local population was also undernourished. Prisoners of war replaced civilians at the front and were forced to work in munitions factories, on farms, or down in mines. Prisoners suffered from hunger in camps, and food was often stolen. This metal box was handmade to contain bread or biscuits. Its owner could take his food reserves with him when he went to work to avoid them being stolen. Many soldiers had notebooks in which they wrote their diaries and memoirs. These notebooks provided historians with first-hand account of the horrors of war experienced by soldiers. German tags, I won't try to pronounce that, were not the same for all soldiers at the start of the war. The shape, materials used, and even the information changed, depending on the region from which the soldier came. In September 1915, a standard model was introduced. A disc with soldiers' names, dates, and places of birth, and regimental details. The model was replaced in late 1916. Prisoners did not have handkerchiefs or towels, and such linen was highly prized by prisoners in camps. Once a prisoner was assigned to an employer, their living conditions generally improved, because detention conditions were generally better respected. Letter from a Hungarian prisoner. Dear Mr. Denschall, I've been held in a prisoner of war camp in Reims for almost 3 months now. We are relatively well treated, but I can't wait to get out of here. With your permission, at the end of the war, I would very much like to return to my foreman position. I still have all my faculties, and even if I may not be as strong as I was, I'd soon be fit enough to work again. I look forward to hearing from you. Maximilian, electrician foreman. Victor is 1 year old today. My God, I miss him. How long is this war going to last? If only they could assign me to Saint Miel. The Germans are still holding down the town. I've been stuck here in this POW camp south of Reims for 11 months now. My health is picking up and I'm even walking again at last. All thanks to Anna. Marie's last letter worried me. Victor is very sick, and they don't have the resources to take care of him in St. Miel. I must get out of here. Sad day today. Freddie and Walt perished. May their souls rest in peace. Victor is sick. He hasn't eaten in 3 days. He's all pale and weak. He needs meat, but I have nothing left to give him. I hope he improves soon. Carl's last letter reassured me. He can walk again. There's a nurse taking special care of him at the POW camp.
Släpp det vita amhang!
Gut gemacht. Gut gemacht, Lierten. Gut gemacht.
Oj, det är bra för dig.
fallen dogs, Rosie.
Auf!
Good boy.
Este nicht!
Hey, whoa! Whoa, get away!
Armored vehicles. Assault artillery was invented during the war in an attempt to break through enemy lines. The first prototypes of armored vehicles appeared. Generals noted that vehicles fitted with wheels were ineffective in a trench environment. Engineers thus worked on prototypes to overcome the problem, and Caterpillar tracks proved to be the perfect solution to the problem. No Man's Land was the zone located between the Allied and enemy trenches. The distance varied between 50 and 1,500 yards. The zone was watched closely by day, and anyone venturing out would be shot, but by night it became a theater of espionage, when barbed wire and traps were set to protect trenches. Most battle casualties resulted in this zone. Flashlights were common in the trenches. Army-issued flashlights were made to fit into a cartridge belt and function with batteries. This long, broad, flat German bayonet was designed to thrust into an enemy's rib cage and break his ribs. A dead rat wasn't garbage, especially a dead rat on a skewer, which would be spit roasted for dinner. You can't reason with a starving man. The Germany currency, the mark, underwent rapid devolution during the war to help the German Empire provide for the war effort. German soldiers were as poorly paid as their Allied enemies, and earned just under 16 marks a month, or 50 pounds, 84 US dollar in today's currency.
Go now.
Was given a hero's welcome by the French forces. Emile wrote to Anna to let her know that her father was free and out of harm's way. Freddy and Emile's reunion, however, would be short-lived. May 14th, 1916. Freddy was sent to the Somme, while Emil's regiment was quartered near a small village at the top of a hill. The village was called Vauquois. This is where the conflict had moved underground. Holed up in their trenches, the two camps dug tunnels and galleries. The underground war had begun.
Allez, on tire bas. Longe le banc.
Vauquois and mine warfare. Underground warfare really developed beneath the hill of Vauquois, to the west of Verdun. Each side dug sapping, tunnels beneath tunnels, to sabotage the enemy's positions. Opposing engineers frequently came within feet of each other through the rock. With the advent of pneumatic drills and ventilation systems, tunnels could be dug deeper. The cumulated use of 500 tons of TNT completely deformed the hill. Such listening devices, resembling giant stethoscopes, were used to listen for enemy tunnels and saps. Saps were tunnels that were built beneath enemy tunnels to make them cave in. Telephone cables were originally made with a single wire, but this posed serious security issues. Special divisions were created to listen into conversations. All eavesdroppers had to do was hook up to the wire and listen in, undetected. To remedy the problem, telecom engineers created a closed system with a second wire, which made eavesdropping much more complicated. General Headquarters produced a daily news bulletin to keep the press and soldiers informed. The bulletin soon became a propaganda tool used by generals to control the information fed to both the troops and civilians. Box of throat lozenges. Soldiers exposed to gas developed highly sensitive airways, so they sucked on lozenges to help soothe the pain. British changed their dog tags in the course of the conflict. At the start of the war, soldiers were issued a single aluminum disc, but because of the huge numbers of volunteers, producers, and engravers could not keep pace with the demand. The aluminum discs were replaced by red, vulcanized asbestos fiber discs. In 1916, the War Office requested the addition of a second disc to cope with the problem of unidentified corpses. A lantern that could be folded away and stored flat in a backpack. Soldiers placed a candle inside the lantern, which protected it from the wind. Freddy's alive! He earned his nickname Lucky Freddy. And big brave Walt pulled through too. Things aren't so grim after all. Everybody calls me Lucky Freddy. If only they knew. It's not luck. It's you up there, shining down on me, showing me the way. I think about you every day, sweetheart. Dear Lord, Carl is dead. He always spoke about his son, Victor, and when he told me that Victor was sick, he had a strange look in his eyes. He must have tried to escape to see his son. It's awful. How am I going to break the news to Emil?
What? Hey, that's you. What? Hey, what? Hey. I'm so bad. What? Hey. God. How are you?
Danke.
Merci.
Mann, da kommst du rum.
Merci, mon ami. Adieu.
Hey, Stift, du da!
Gibt's doch nicht. Merci, mon ami.
Put it up. Oh, allez, on casse.
Ouais, allez, vas-y. Ouais, va. What? Allez, oui. Voilà. Merci, vieux frère. Oh, bah, on dit, c'est moi. Hey, un régiment, mais mal visitant. Allez, viens comme. Ya.
Caron fait bouillard.
Vieux grognon, le bouillon. Hey, Prosit. Zo zijn. Hokje op. Allez, viens comme. Ja. Feu.
French officers were proud of the heavy losses inflicted on the enemy. Emile, full of anger, refused to be decorated for what he considered to be a cowardly act. Emile and Freddy were, however, happy to have saved Anna's father from Baron von Dorf's clutches. His scientific research could no longer be used to make weapons of war. Good news being few and far between, they wanted to savor this moment. But Anna had frightening news. Carl had been killed while trying to escape the POW camp.
No.
Upon hearing of his death, Emile became sickened with grief.
Herme, el beton, quelque
The military police were responsible for enforcing discipline among soldiers outside companies, including in civilian zones, and were responsible for arresting soldiers found without passes, caught plundering, or committing any other offense such as drunkenness or ill discipline. They also collected stragglers, guarded against spies, controlled traffic, and chased down deserters and mutineers. Managing the dead, whether in the trenches or in hospitals, was a complicated task. Many bodies disappeared on the battlefield, and makeshift cemeteries were dug in close proximity to the front line. To identify corpses, as well as their pay books, soldiers were issued with aluminum identification discs, or dog tags. Initially, one tag was issued, but this created its own identification issue. The tags would be removed from corpses for administration purposes, leaving the bodies with no means of identification. So, from 1917, 2 discs were issued, one for the admin and the other to remain on the corpse. Tent canvas was a soldier's refuge. Often, soldiers did not mount their tents, but rolled themselves up to stay dry. Extra clothing would have only slowed soldiers' movements, putting them in danger. Army Internal Correspondence. This is a special card that soldiers were allowed to send to each other. Brothers could thus correspond with each other even if they weren't stationed together. If one or several family members died, demobilization was not an option. In some cases, a whole family could be wiped out in the war. Soldiers wrapped themselves in whatever was available to try to stay warm in the trenches. Animal hides such as goat or sheep hides offered great protection. The magazine London Opinion encouraged British civilians to enlist. The cover features the famous poster of Lord Kitchener, the Defense Secretary, exhorting Britons to enlist, with his piercing gaze that follows you everywhere. The soldiers must have accessory. At the time, braces were the more popular alternative to belts and provided support even for mud-caked loons. The guy who left this pair behind maybe had a solid belt for support. What happened in that POW camp? Why did they shoot Carl? I hate this godforsaken war. How can I tell Marie that Victor will never see his father again? I've found my father at last. And thank you, Freddy, for pulling him out of this hell. I daren't speak to Emil anymore. Carl's death has crushed him.
Vamos, capitán. Allá. No.
Sacre!
September 15th, 1916. The bloody Battle of the Somme still raged on. 206,000 British soldiers would lose their lives there. Freddy was commissioned to drive the newest weapon of war, a major progress in a conflict that was literally stuck in the mud. But Baron von Dorf was also counting on this battle to shine in front of his superiors.
British initiated the Battle of the Somme in the aim of drawing the Germans out of Verdun to attempt a decisive push. For the first time, on September 15, 1916, assault tanks were used in combat. Of the fleet of 49 Mark I tanks, only 18 were operational and only 5 were ultimately used. Late November 1916, the Battle of the Somme came to an end. All in all, 650,000 German, 420,000 British, and 195,000 French troops lost their lives. Developed in utmost secrecy, tanks gained their name from the British subterfuge to conceal their real purpose from espionage. Official documents instead spoke of a device for transporting water to Russian troops. The first model to roll out, the imaginatively named Mark I, had a huge psychological impact, and tanks would reach their destination to find trenches deserted. The Germans, however, soon learned to cope with shortcomings. The vehicles were also unreliable, and interior conditions were horrific. Anzac area map of Halbeek, Belgium. Albert Smith, contest winner Jessica Smith's great-grandfather, fought in the Anzac, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, 7th Battalion from 1915 to 1918. The map shows Anzac positions with rifles, roads, which were safe and unsafe for passage, enemy positions, and strike points. Albert Smith was shot in the shoulder in this very area, but he survived the war. Thanks to Jessica for sharing this great war valiant story with us. So that's another, somebody submitted their own family's memorabilia of the war. The Anzac identification disc was the same design as British discs, but the metal discs were distributed for longer in Australia. In 1916, Anzac troops also received a second disc like the British troops to complement the main disc. Telegram from New Zealand. It's a boy. Stop. Brian. Stop. Mother and son okay. Stop. Miss you. Stop.
After too many missteps and too many battles lost, Baron von Dorf was demoted and moved far from the front lines. For him, a fate worse than death. January 18th, 1917. Emile, still bedridden, beseeched Anna to travel to Saint Mihiel to find his daughter and share the sad news of Karl's death. Anna set off immediately.
Hé, c'est trop long. Allez, mieux.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Allez.
You cool dog, no.
Non, merci, merci.
Exhausted, starving. Karl realized he'd never reach Saint Mihiel, his strength fading. Destiny still had one more surprise in store. They were only about 20 miles from Saint Mihiel when their hopes were again dashed.
No!
Va pour les croquants. Passe pas.
Winter was harsh for soldiers in the trenches, and troops suffered from the perpetual cold and damp, with temperatures often below zero on the Western Front. Many ended up in the infirmary with frostbite, which could ultimately lead to an amputation. It was important to try to keep the feet dry. The ancestor of CD and DVD players, the phonograph, used wax cylinders before vinyl discs took over. The French National Bank struggled to produce enough coins and banknotes, so emergency money was produced. That's always nice. Local authorities were permitted to draw up their own banknotes with their own design. Wheat was rare, so cereals were used to make flour for bread. Wheat bran is darker and composed of mainly fiber but also crammed with vitamins and minerals. Today, it is an integral part of a high-fiber diet. Back in the day, it was a sign of hard times. Kind of like how I could go for a buttered roll in Jersey, but, you know, my ancestors would think we were starving. A postcard of a luscious woman sent to a soldier at the front. Such postcards were popular among troops. French gendarmes also operated as military police. Gendarmes made sure soldiers respected military law and behaved themselves at the front. I don't know if that's like gendarmes. I can't. I managed to get away without taking a bullet. It was a close call. Poor Wilfred saved my life. I've got to get to St. Miel. Hold on in there, Victor. I'm coming. I've been trudging through the countryside for 4 months now. I'm so hungry, but I can't approach villages. I did try, but they recognized my accent. Nearly got myself arrested. I must be careful. Still no news from Carl or Daddy. It's been 4 months today. What has happened to them? I must stop worrying. Maybe it's simply that letters aren't getting through. I daren't imagine the worst. Victor needs his father, and so do I. Emil's morale slumps by the day. He hasn't had news from Marie or Victor for months. It's probably because St. Miel has been cut off from the world. I fear the worst. I'm going to visit them. Surely they'll let a nurse through the lines. I couldn't do it. I had his life in my hands and I couldn't do it. Killing him would not have brought you back, and you wouldn't have wanted to see me kill. He wasn't worth it. Nothing's holding me back here now. If I survive this damn war, I'll be heading home.
Calme-toi le Pékin. Ah, bonhomme. Apporte pas de la piquerate. Mina. Égale-toi, maintenant.
Hey, hop!
Hein? Voilà, dis donc. Voilà. Oh, fouet bouillant, là.
Vas-y, envoie. Allez, gars.
San Miel.